to welcome everyone to the September Elizabethton City Schools Board of Education meeting. Nice to see all of you guys. This is when it's fun, is when the room's full of students, so we're awfully glad you guys are here. If everyone would please stand, and Dr. Gardenauer is going to lead us to the pledge to flag in a moment of silence.
All right, let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, it's time for citizens to speak in accordance with Board Policy 1.404. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come forward, state your name and your address. Seeing none, it's time for Dr. Gardenauer to do some recognitions.
Okay, the first recognition we have this evening will be Coach Harden, and we'll talk a little bit about the softball program and then also the actual complex that they worked on. So if all of our softball people could come up at this time, and I'll read some of their accolades as they're coming up. Our 2016 Cyclone softball team had several accolades this year. Let's give them a hand, first of all. They were conference champions, district tournament runner-up, regional tournament champion, the first in the history of the Elizabethton Fighting Cyclones. Hosted the sectional tournament. Their record was 35-15. Kelly Cunningham and Lauren Brickey were named of Tennessee Coaches Association All-State Team. Winner of Silver Division of the Tiny Day Tournament. Finished 5-0 in the Riverdale Tournament in Murfreesboro. And we just want to say a special thank you to our coaching staff and all these wonderful children for all their hard work. We're so proud of you. Go ahead, Coach Harden.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gardenauer, for all you've done for our program. I'd like to take a lot of credit. Coach Snodgrass is one of the biggest reasons where we're at, but these girls came together last year like a family. It shows you what can happen when you put in hard work and you forget yourself and take care of everybody else. This is one of the best groups I've ever coached, and I've been around a long time. Everybody knows that. But they did everything we asked them to. They became a family, like I said, after games, going places together and things. And they're just a testament to what you can do if you trust one another and do the right things.
The building. Go ahead.
Now, while they're up here, I want to keep them up here for this. One of the biggest things that really helped our program, we didn't really have a place to go, a place to practice or anything when it was cold, and we ended up just running down D-Hall a lot. And they get tired of that, they'll tell you that. But a couple of our parents, a couple of years ago, we started scratching on a piece of paper an idea of building a building that we could use during the winter. We call it our hitting facility now, and we just decided one day to up and do it with the help of our Diamond Club. I can't say enough about all the ladies, Christy and Miss Brickey, all that they've done are officers of the Diamond Club to help this thing, to make this thing happen. And please come by and see it. If you've not, school board members, please, I've got a banner, not a banner, but a poster back there that shows you the progress of it, shows you what we've done at pretty much no cost to the school system. We've raised the money and had a tremendous amount of help through the community to make it possible. We're also able to help not only this team, but teams in the future and the little ones in the area. We've been able to help some of the Little League teams, travel ball teams, and everything else. And it's going to be really strong for our program. And when I retire in a few years, it's going to the next coach is really going to be lucky because of all of our community's done for us. If you'll bring those up, Miss Christie, we want to recognize a couple of people and tell you what they've done for us. First, I'd like John and Noreen Allen to come up, please, real quick. It wouldn't have been possible without this man and all he's done and the support from Noreen. he came and we were talking about it, and he came and broke ground for us. So we just pretty much had to do something after he done that. But he has been so good to us, so good to the girls, and has done so much equipment, material. He spent his own money out of his pocket to help us get this thing underway and to get it done. But we couldn't have done this without the two of them. They've done it, and they begged me not to have them up here tonight, but I made both of them come because they've just been a tremendous asset, not only to our program, to a lot of things at the school. Thank you. Also, Sheriff Lunsford, if you'd come up just a second. This is Sheriff Lunsford, and he provided manpower, plus he also provided inmate labor. We worked all hours of the night, and we had guards with him, so nobody was in danger or anything, but he was so supportive and helped us a tremendous amount. There were several times that he was down there watching them work, and we couldn't have done this without you, Sheriff. We really want to say thank you in front of all these people for all you've done. We appreciate all you do in our community. Thank you. And then, Mr. Edwards, if you'll come on up. Brian Edwards is representing our National Guard tonight. They've done everything from buying banners to letting us borrow equipment to some of the beams to set the trusses that we probably couldn't have got it done without it. And they've also given us monetary donations each year, and it totals about $2,500 to get this thing underway. Brian promised me, he's out there on the work crew a day or two also, but he promised me he was going to take that to the Guard and get us a picture to go up in our building. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, you get to come up front. I'll embarrass little Dynamite here. This is Macy Herman. Her dad, Jeff, basically, he can do anything from electric to framing to anything. He basically was over the entire project, and he, without his knowledge, without everything he done, and he spent a lot of time away from home, didn't he? So we really appreciate him. He's working tonight. He works a 12-hour shift tonight. But we want you to take that to him and tell him we appreciate everything he done. And also, the last one, Dr. Gardenauer, if you would come for us real quick. We'd like to thank Dr. Gardenauer and Elizabethton City School Systems. I think when I first brought this idea to Mr. Van Husson, he took it up and gave him the idea, and we started getting our permits. I don't know that they thought we could do something of this magnitude, and it's just proof, again, with you put your mind to something, you can do just about anything. And we're so thankful for your support and all you do for the kids and all you do for our school system.
Just want to say to all of you, you're the focus of everything we do. Every time that we're in a project and all these people out here that have helped us, you're the focus. So we appreciate you. Coach Harden and Snodgrass, you all, how many hours have I been up there late at night? You guys are still working. They had the lights on in the evenings so everyone could see to make sure this all happened. So thank you all.
Everybody stay put. We're going to do pictures. And then, ladies, if you would, we're going to we're going to recognize all the students, and then I'll dismiss everybody. So.
Organize their huggers.
I love
I got a
that.
press-
Picture of the basketball team doing that. I think that's the cutest
You need
thing.
a picture from behind, too.
I've got one of ladies basketball.
Oh, yeah, isn't that nice? Yeah,
whatever you
we
want to
just need a tour of that facility. That's amazing. They did that.
Good work.
We had some very exciting news last week. We had students at the high school write a grant. We had some teachers who coached them through that, and students have worked very hard, and they were able to earn $200,000 plus some scholarships for them for their work, and we're so proud of them, so we're going to recognize them tonight. I think they have a short presentation for us, so come on up. Let's do a PowerPoint first, and then we'll do that. Turn it on. I think it's on.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to say thank you to the board, Dr. Gardenhauer, everyone that was involved with this. For me personally, I'm still trying to wrap my mind that this actually happened. We were here in, I think it was April or May, at the school board meeting and saying this is what we're doing. I never imagined we get to come back and say we actually did it. So this is extremely exciting for me. So I will do a short introduction and then I'll let the students do the rest, because that's what we did to begin with, is I introduced it, they did it. So we'll imitate again tonight. But with XQ Super School Project, I actually found it looking for other grants. I'd applied for a grant looking to get new tiling put in the library or the floor, and I didn't get it. So I was like, well, I need to find a different grant to try to get my tiling put in. And I found this grant, so this sounds really interesting. So I sent it to Mr. Campbell, Mr. Prof, and said, hey, this is really cool. And then at 6 o'clock the next morning, Mr. Campbell had texted me and said, get down here right now. We're going to do this. So I got to work as quickly as I could, and we tried to lay the groundwork for this. The students just did an amazing job. It's kind of a microcosm of what we wanted in this project by saying, we told the students, here's what we want to achieve. How do you do it? And they just did an immaculate job just taking what we had and running with it. So I'm just incredibly proud of the students that we have. So the title of our project was called Bartleby School. And we have two quotes here on the PowerPoint that kind of helped guide us. And I'll read them for you in case you're kind of far away. But it says, there is frequently more to be learned from the unexpected questions of a child than the discourses of men. And that's from John Locke. And then a real education should teach you how to live, but more importantly, how to die. That's by John Taylor Gatto. So I'll do the first slide. I'll hand it over to Zeb and Eliana and let them go through to the very end. So our first thought is, what do students need to learn? The first thing would be understanding of ever-changing technology. That what we really want for our students is that no matter what happens in the world after they leave school, that they're prepared for it. That no matter how technology evolves, they can say, okay, I can tackle this problem, I can understand this. That I've learned previously how to take information and learn from it and defeat that information. So the ability to approach new problems critically, that whatever path they choose in life, that they're going to succeed at it. That whether they go to medical school or whatever they do, they can say, whatever approaches me in this situation, I already have the background knowledge to know how to handle this. And learning to collaborate with a diverse set of potential partners. So one thing that happens in the way we do high school and all of school is the students only see people their own age, and that's the only people they ever work with. But as you can see in this room tonight, we're not all the same age or ethnicity or religion. We're all different here. That's the way community works, is everyone's different. So we want to make sure that our students are partnering with people that are not just like them. And most importantly, to love learning. That's the most important part. That's why we're all here. That's why the people that are teachers here, that's why we're teachers, is to ensure that students love learning, that the rest of their life, that they'll say, I want to know more about this. I want to engage myself with this information so I can keep learning the rest of my life. So I'll pass this over to whoever wants to go first, and I'll give you the clicker as well.
I'm going to lean over. Okay. So technology has advanced a lot in the past 20, 30 years, and it has connected us with people all over the globe. But with that connection, there's also repercussions. We have become less connected with people in our community, people in our families, in our home, even ourselves. And we really wanted to fix that. We wanted to bring the connection back by having students go out into the community and get out of the classroom and make the community better and see actual change from their actions. The main goal of our project is to ensure that students have a sense of optimism wherever they go in life. We don't want them to hit a roadblock and then say, okay, I can't do this, I'm done. We want them to keep pushing no matter how hard it gets. Second, we want them to learn things that they can use for the rest of their lives, not just now or until the next test that they have to take. And they want them to be interested in the lessons they are being taught, because if you're interested in it, you're going to want to keep that in your brain. You're going to want to go on with it and learn more about it. And we'll teach these to our students through job shadowing or internships, community service, real-world experiences, and all of our classes, everything our students learn will be based on the students and as individuals. We won't group them by ages or whatever. We'll let them choose how they want to learn, and we'll make it to the best of their ability. And students should learn, and we want our students to know that learning doesn't just have to be in schools. You can learn it afterwards. We don't want students the minute the bell goes off to stop thinking, to stop absorbing new information from everywhere they go. Students must have a framework for which to incorporate their learning. And it's easier to learn when you make connections between the subjects. If you see something in math and you can connect it to English and science and history, it makes it so much easier to learn because you see it from so many different dimensions. They must find trends and patterns across time and subjects. This helps connect previous knowledge with understanding new concepts. Planning and implementation of community and entrepreneurial activities, that not only betters our students and gives them experience into things that will help them later in life, but it betters the community through their work. And a lesson is truly never learned until the application has been made. You can study something forever and ever, but if you never see it have an effect on something, you're never going to really understand how important it is.
The initial mission of our Bartleby Super School project was to transform Elizabethton High School and to awaken the passion of learning in individuals. We like to use open source learning, like taking our community experts like business owners and people like that to help our students create a real world experience in learning. We like to see how students assess their work, not by getting a number grid, so to say, but having a portfolio, setting and achieving goals. Most colleges nowadays aren't looking at test scores first. They're looking at portfolios and what students have done. Mr. Hensley and Eliana both already touched on age mixing. The best example I've got for that was kindergarten year, we were paired up with a 5th grader, and that was our reading buddy. And I'll never forget Ryan Pinkerman because he would come and read with me every day, or every Friday. No homework policies. We like to encourage family time because, I mean, once you go home, nobody really wants to do homework, and everybody usually does it the next morning, if we're being completely honest here. So, no homework policy just ensures that we get maximum family time, which engages learning at home. Our students will show engagement whenever they have to take ownership of their own education. We like to leave the education possibilities up to the students so that they can't say, it's this teacher's fault that I failed this class, it's these teacher's fault that I failed this class. We want students to take credibility for their own actions. Students, members of both school and district boards and committees, we want our students to be involved no matter what they're doing. If they want to be members of, say, a junior school board that can make decisions for the school. Students are ambassadors in community. Every single person that I have talked to above the age of 40 has seen these same teenage stereotypes, that they're all dancing at parties and everything like that. And I'm here to say that all my classmates that worked on this project, that's not what the student that comes out of high school does. And we would just want to ensure that. From individual community members to local nonprofit corporations, networking is the lifeblood of our project. Our local experts in this community are our access to job shadowing, internships, and apprenticeships. Instead of like sitting through a class on business, we want to team our students up with a business owner who has been there, done that, and they know how to run the business, and they can show the ways. Community boards and committees, again, is just like saying like a junior school board. Students will not receive a grade for each class, but a review from a teacher themselves, and if a community project, the person they worked with. What does a grade say? A grade is a letter, a number, but say you have a student that started the school year at the bottom of the class, but by the end of the year, they have excelled so much, but what if they only have a B? I mean, they're probably not going to be in the top 10% because it's not an A. So we like to give the review so that the teacher can say, hey, this is what this student did all year, and they have made some amazing progress in my class. Students, parents, teachers, and community member feedback. We always love feedback. We had so many surveys that we did with this project, and we couldn't have done it without feedback at all. Back to Mr. Crawford. The money man.
And now we get to the $200,000 question, right? What about the money? What we want to happen, what we see happening is creation of a couple classes, we hope. A community-based class, community improvement class, where we go out into the community, we see problems, we work together with the community to fix them. And we would like to see our students become entrepreneurs, to start a business, to just push themselves to be better. And that's what this money is going to go for, we hope. We've already touched on this a little bit, but we want student voices on our boards, in the chairpersons. We want, who else knows better than what's going right and wrong than the students do? So we're going to give those the voices. The majority of the money will go directly to the students. We hope to maybe give them a small loan to start their business, which they will repay, will be investors. Sometimes you lose money as investors, sometimes you get it back. But that's what we're hoping. We're going to invest in the students with this money. Yeah. And just talked about through their projects, we hope to have them not only reimburse us, but continue with the project and say, hey, now how do I help the project grow and help it grow as a project and in the community. Just keep on working in the community. So thank you all for supporting us in this, and I'd like to thank the students for their hard work. They did a tremendous job on it.
Can I just say something on behalf of the board? That when you guys were here in the spring and you gave us your presentation, we were absolutely blown away because you thought outside of the box. It was really intriguing. But to know that you made it to, that they came to see you, that they wanted to recognize you and give you some money to fund your project, I mean, that's astounding. So we are incredibly proud of you guys. So please come up here. We want to take pictures of you, and please give just, wow, I don't know how to tell you how proud we are of you.
That was fun being there when they announced it on the TV.
It's neat.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Except for the music.
Yeah.
Music.
It was bad. It's almost identical to Jefferson. Massachusetts. The whole thing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Stuff from the 60s.
The neat thing is that they did it on their own.
Yeah. Right?
That came from their idea.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Proud of you.
Got some great teachers.
Oh, you do it.
The next recognition we have this evening is two EHS students, Seth Similarly and Harrison Wright, for their successful solo flight. So, Mr. Mills, would you do our presentations on that? And Colonel Powley?
Today we're talking outside the box. Because this shows you what happens outside the box also. And we just went over 9,000 students flown. And I think these guys were like 150, 151, somewhere around 150 solo students. This is a good lab. This is a good way to put what you know into practice, getting up in an airplane and actually doing it. So what all you've said tonight is spot on, and I applaud that and I echo that, and I hope we keep doing this forever.
All right, well, this is Lieutenant Colonel Powley, if you don't know him.
He's kind of one of the silent partners in this that supplies a lot of resources for students to go take a passenger ride initially, and then work with young men and women that want to solo. And these two gentlemen, they actually got the solo for $400 is all it cost them. If you actually went out to the airport and wanted to solo, it'd be about $2,500. So with the help of Ken Brummett and providing his airplane at a very reasonable rate, and Lieutenant Colonel Polly with his Flight Foundation providing resources, Harrison and Seth were the proud recipients of that. And I've had the privilege of working with young men and women. This will be my 7th year. It's amazing. And with the insight of the school board and the former superintendent providing a FMX flight simulator, we actually had one of our graduates, Garrett Church, who's down at Middle Tennessee State University, flew up here yesterday with his flight instructor. Happened to be a young lady that was his instructor. It's kind of interesting to see the interaction between those two. But we went out to eat. They went out to eat the Fats, and I went over and spent some time with them. And then I invited them to come over to the Elizabethton High School. And I said, would you like to get in a simulator? She said, oh, I'd love to. And so I put her in there, and she said, man, I wish we had one of these at MTSU. You know, we don't have anything like this at MTSU. So very, very impressed with that. Just a side note, it's just an honor to work with these young men and women, just like the coaches and everything else. We have phenomenal students at Elizabethton High School. I actually have 3 or 4 this year. I mean, I'm giving them A+ as 100% some of their flights because they're doing as good as I can do. And I've got 21,000 hours, and they've got a couple hours. So a lot of that is with the flight simulator and them really applying themselves. So we've got some more that will be coming down the pike. So, Lieutenant Colonel, would you like to present yours to start with?
Where's Harrison? We, yeah, if you would hold that. We give a solo flight certificate. This is from Flight Foundation. You guys have one for the high school. But also, I have them, give them a little shirt to wear. This is our advertising. And it's got the logo on the front and just says Solo Pilot Flight Foundation. So the contract you sign requires you to wear this once a week. Wherever you go, college, whatever. But congratulations. And I have to say that some of these guys solo in less than 10 hours. I've soloed kids in a 152, which is a 2-plates airplane, under 5 hours. That's insane. But there's some very talented people, and these guys ought to be flying. Okay. Mr. Set. Congratulations, partner. And you opted for the blue shirt, so you get the blue shirt. Same thing. Wear it proudly, and look forward to seeing you out there in that.
So we're always looking for new students. Ladies, if you'd like to come fly, I'd love to teach you. Solo, some of you may not know what that means. That means I actually get out of the airplane, and they go up by themselves. They enjoy it. You know, I'm saying my prayers. Because once I get out of the airplane, I have no control. And but I trust them very, very explicitly.
You guys all need to do this just to see your moms look. That's the place of admission.
I will tell you, a couple years ago, Lieutenant Pally took me up and a guy from my office, and we had a very exciting flight because he decided to. The guy with me screamed like a little girl, just so you know. I did not. I did, but it was great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did we get pictures? Did you get pictures?
Did you get pictures? Yeah. Yeah. You all, could you come back up and just get a couple pictures? We want to make sure that we have those. Our next recognition this evening is EHS student Heather Fuchenberger, who placed 8th in the 800 meter at the U.S. Junior Olympics in Houston, Texas this summer. So if you would come on forward.
And actually, I talked to the Fuchsenbergers at the doorway earlier. Again, the Junior Olympics was a long way away, and I asked her dad if he would describe the 2,500-mile drive to Houston. Would you want to tell more, or you want Heather to tell it all?
Heather ran 100+ feet with us.
I mean, we drove to Texas. We went to the beach halfway, and we drove the other half. And I did prelims on, I think it was a Thursday, and I had a Monday. I did prelims on a Monday and qualified, and then I had finals on a Wednesday, and I placed 8th. So it was pretty cool.
Congratulations.
You got to come back up
Yeah,
and have
get
your
your
picture made.
Yeah.
You were so close. You were fast, but not that fast.
Okay, our last recognition this evening, thank you. Our last recognition is EHS student Cody Duggar, who placed 10th this summer at the medical terminology at the first HOSA International Competition by Brian Colbert, CTA director. In previous years, this HOSA competition was just for USA participants. Cody recently placed second in the state HOSA competition in order to qualify for the international competition. So come on, let's recognize you, Cody.
And again, as Dr. Gardner read, Cody placed second in the state competitions. He was already up here once before. I stood here beside all of them and bragged on him, and sadly, I never did give him the microphone. So, Cody, I told you that, again, you want to challenge them on some medical terms you can. Dr. May probably will be pretty good at it. I'll let you describe what all you did in Nashville.
All right, so, in Nashville, we had, I want to say it was about just a few hours of drive, not too bad, but going through everything, I spent the first 3 days of competitions just studying a stack of flashcards about as thick as my legs, so it was definitely a time. It was stressful, and my heart was pounding whenever I got up to walk into the room, take that test, 100 multiple choice, 20 fill in the blank, all medical terminology. Some stuff I'd never seen before, and I was like, okay, well, I'll take that. And then some things that I had seen and sadly couldn't remember. Despite how many customers I deal with who do have halitosis. But yeah, I believe it was a Thursday that I had my competition, and I had to wait until later that night, or later the next night, to figure out what the results were. Went through, gosh, hundreds of competitors sitting in a room of, I think they said it was 9,500 people, just competitors, not even including, the advisors and everyone there, all the parents. And they get to, medical math, medical reading, medical spelling, and terminology. And I see my name right there in the middle of 10 other contestants on the board. And my heart stops. I stop breathing for a second when I realize that I'm going to have to get up in front of all these people. But my mom flipped out and cried so much that she somehow launched her earring into the woman behind her. But yeah, so I hurried up to the stage, just watching blinding lights, and yeah, they went through and they announced the top 3. I didn't make it into the top 3, but still making it in the top 10 was pretty shocking, especially for it being an international, worldwide competition.
And of course, we're hoping all those that beat him last year from Michigan and Texas and other places have graduated, and he will be the lead person hopefully this year. And I saw Dr. May laugh at one of those statements, so you caught his humor that I didn't know what that word was.
Halitosis is bad breath.
Very good. Thank you, Coach.
Well, first of all, again, on behalf of the board, we're so proud of all of you. You make our school system proud. You make our community proud. And, wow, it's neat to know that one day you guys are going to be leading this community and wherever you choose to live, but I hope a lot of you stay here. As promised, because you guys were great, I'll give everybody a few minutes and you can leave. You're welcome to stay, but I understand if you want to go. Goodbye.
I never stay for the fun part.
Kids, should they?
Tyler, do you need a water?
Oh, I got a Pepsi. Thank you.
I bet there's parking now.
I'll bet.
I'm good, thank you.
Would I like a what? Oh, no, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
First I thought you said you want to go for a walk.
Oh, that too. It went well. Something I got.
We were -1 at first.
I'll try to be there next time.
You're a little work, so. But it was fun.
Good. I'll try to hit the next one.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Unfortunately, no. All right, back to, the meeting. So it's time to approve the consent and regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Anybody have any questions or comments on the consent or regular agenda? Okay. Item on the floor, approve consent and regular agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Dr. Gardenauer, more talking.
Okay, just a few things for this month, and Becca will come up at the very end and give us kind of an update on our communication and talk a little bit about our communication survey. Had the pleasure of attending the district golf tournament yesterday. We had some students who are moving on. We're so proud of them. We'll be recognizing them next month, but we're really proud of our coaches and also of our kids. The track grand opening went very well. I appreciate everyone making time to come out to that, and it was a great community event. I think that our intended purpose was to make sure that everyone had an opportunity, number one, awareness to know that it is open and ready for use, and also to thank the LaPorte family and the Tri-Citizens Bank Foundation for their continued support of all of our projects that we've done recently. We attended a workshop in Gatlinburg last week, and we had a lot of updates on what's going to be a part, and tonight really is a part where our work ethic diploma that we have that we're looking at as a part of our work ready communities, and we received a work ready communities grant to help us in our work ethic diploma work, and so we just found out last week that we received that, so we're very happy with that. I want to thank all the supervisors for working on our school improvement planning. They've been working tirelessly on our goals and trying to make sure that they coordinate with what we're actually doing and where we need to go for the school systems. There's been a lot of planning and support through all of them. And I want to thank Mr. Plus for working on ACT, which is one of those goals, but he's been working heavily on that and trying to make sure that we have a path there to improve. We have our fall district meeting, and still at this late hour, if you feel that you'd love to come, on Monday at 4:30, we'd love to have you because we'll be going to Johnson County for that. And I want to say one thing about this board, and I know that our election is coming up very soon and in the next few months, but this board has worked together, in my opinion, since I've been in Elizabethton, the best working board and working relationship that we've had. And we're so proud of everything that you all are doing and how you approach schoolwork. And a lot of you have had some school level experience. We have experience from the community, higher education, former teacher, sales, and working with the electrical side of what we do. But you all bring a lot to the table, and we appreciate all that you've done. And I'm just proud that all of our current board members that are up for election are running again. That says a lot to our community and the direction of the school system, so we appreciate you. And with that, I'll give this to Becca, and she'll school us on communication.
All right, I'm going to be quick because we can get through the meeting. Okay, so everyone knows that we just completed our communication survey of community members and staff. We had pretty good participation with staff, and I'm just going to go over kind of a summary of our results. And ultimately, my goal is to get together and have a workshop with board members and principals and kind of identify areas for improvement and figure out a plan that is concrete that we can move forward with to do better next year. Not that we did poorly, we did really well, but so in the staff survey, we had 176 people participate. The majority of those were teachers, and of all the schools, we had around 30 people at each school. Westside led with 37, and compared to their whole school staff, that was the largest percentage and the largest number, so they get a blue jeans day. Go Wildcats. Okay, in the survey, we determined that greater than 85% of our staff feel that their efforts are recognized and that they can be open with leadership. Most feel they're informed, but some mentioned that they'd like to be informed sooner about events and that we could communicate better in that area. Regarding social media, 70% said they would access Facebook pages for each school, which is something that I've been considering doing, kind of a trend we're seeing in other districts. With the websites, they said they should be updated more frequently and they should be easier to navigate. And I think a source of that struggle is that they said teacher pages are fairly difficult to update. So I'm working with webmasters now to see what our issues are and how we can improve that. I have a couple graphs here. This one is how staff receives district news. The next one is how they receive school news. This is going to be in comparison to how the community receives news, and then later I have a graph with what are the most important things to staff members and community. So what that does for us is tells us how we can reach people with what matters to them so that we're not disseminating information that people would tune out. You can see here the best ways we have to reach staff right now are email, word of mouth, and meetings. And that's actually the same for school news as well. With the community survey, we had 50 participants, and the majority of those were parents. We had a few grandparents and some residents. And the take-in there was that people would like a forum to provide input. I don't know if that would be a link on our website. If we could have a community meeting. Dr. Gardenauer is going to be at some parent nights so that they can talk with him about input that they might have. Here we have 93% said they would like Facebook pages for each school, so that's in comparison to 70% of our staff. We already have the district page, and I've got numbers on how successful that's being if you guys like that, would like to know about that. And let's see, in the community, 82% feel they're informed about topics that matter most. And they said of the website, again, that teacher and school pages need to be updated more consistently, and that we need a solid system for communication between parents and teachers. We have a lot of people doing things differently at different schools, a lot of things that work, and some things work for schools that don't work for other schools. So I think we just have to find out what is the best way to do that at each school. This is the same as those colorful graphs, but they had more options and it was just too much stuff to put on, so I put them side by side. The major difference here in how the community receives news and how our staff receives news is both word of mouth. Word of mouth leads all of them, which actually really surprised me. But Facebook here has been a big one. And to give you an idea of how we're reaching people with just our district page, we've got 780 likes, and then in one day we reached, they have what's called reach, so that's how many people will see your page because other people like it or share it or whatever. In one day, our maximum was about 9,000, so that's a lot of people. Our average is between 100 and 5,000, and that depends on the type of post that we have. So you can see here how the community gets news, and that's kind of just something we should keep in our mind when we're wanting to put out information. Okay, oh, these are kind of dark. Those of you that were at the leadership meeting before school started, we saw a similar pyramid. I said that I would come back with this survey and plug in the data and make our own pyramids. So these are our pyramids. This will guide us in what we need to be telling people and what they care about. There's a lot of info there, so if you guys want me to email it, it's probably more than you're wanting to read right now. And like I said, I'd really like to schedule a workshop. I've put together a communication plan. I don't know that we've had one of those before. And I think just a workshop where we can discuss roles and the direction we want to go and what our goals and strategies are would be super beneficial. So, can anybody meet before the meeting next month?
Yes.
Yes.
How much enthusiasm?
Except Tyler.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes?
Most of us can.
I'll email out. We'll put it together.
Okay. And also, if you would email
I
what's
can
up
just
there,
send the whole. Yeah.
that would be fantastic.
Good deal. Do you guys have any questions?
I appreciate you doing this. You gather, because a lot of times we think we know what's working, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And so you get this feedback and you find out this is what people want, this is how they're gathering their information. So I appreciate you doing that. It's very helpful.
It's a lot of numbers and it's really tedious to put together, but it's something we can do once a year, put the plan together right now that we can go back and update. So it's more work on the front end, but it makes it easier for us down the road.
Well, I appreciate you doing that.
Good deal. Thank you.
And our last person, Carrie, could you come up for just a second?
Hi guys, my name's Carrie Taylor. I'm the director for the Extended School Program, otherwise known as ESP. We service the children that attend the 3 elementary schools. They take a bus from East Side and West Side to Harold McCormick, and we also have the kids at T.A. Duggar Junior High. When I first began working in this position, we had on average attendance about 15 kids a day in each location, and we didn't have a program at all at T.A. Duggar. Currently, we have 222 kids enrolled in the elementary school program, and the average daily attendance is 158. And there are 78 kids enrolled at T.A. Duggar with the average daily attendance of 45. So we've gone from having 10 staff members to a total of 25 staff members, 10 certified teachers working with our kids on a daily basis. For the past 5 years, we've received funding through the Lottery for Education After School Programs grant called the LEAPS grant, as well as the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant. Recently, we were fortunate enough to receive a $12,000 increase at both locations, so we're really excited about that. Grant funds will mostly be used for staffing, but in addition to that, we'll also be able to purchase academic materials for the kids. Extending learning opportunities have been proven to increase academic achievement and enhance physical, social, and emotional growth. We help our kids increase their academic performance with programs like LEGO Education to reinforce language arts, engineering, computer technology, SNAP circuits to teach the kids about electrical circuits, Mango Math to reinforce math concepts through games, and many other programs. We have teachers from the high school all the way down to the early learning center that work with our kids daily. And without their support, our program would not be possible. So I do want to take a moment just to thank everybody and all the support that we get from the school system, and invite anybody that wants to come by to check out our program and see how amazing our kids are.
Thank you.
One thing that Ms. Taylor will not say is that the whole reason that we have the grants is because she wrote the grants. She has worked very closely. We come out with near perfect scores from our grant evaluators. She puts a lot of time and effort into it, so we're lucky to have her.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Anybody else from the board have anything? Before we move on, I just want to say, for everybody that got out Saturday morning and participated in the Race for Wandale, it was again another great day. It's really cool to see the community come out in this. Our neighbors at Sullivan County brought over a lot of their administrators, and it's just a really neat thing, and I think it's really important that Dr. Wandale knows that he is still very, very much a part of our school system. So big shout out to Eastside for all the work they did and everybody else in the community. So that was, as always, a great, great day. All right. We got 3 items on the agenda, 2 are discussion and 1 we vote on. So here we go. The first item is a discussion item. So it's discussion of regional work ethics diploma. The First Core District of Tennessee is wishing to add a work ethics diploma for all school systems. This was originally started in Hamlin, Hawkins, and Granger counties. The plan is to launch this in February 2017 to current juniors so that they will know in advance the goals they can work toward. At that time, ECS would post this to all grades since some of this would affect things outside of students' senior year. Dr. Gardner, tell us about this.
Okay, the work ethic diploma is an opportunity for senior students to be recognized in a way that's special, specific to their work readiness. And that includes things like attendance, their tardiness, discipline record, their overall GPA, being drug-free, whether some of them will have CTE coursework that they've completed, their dual enrollment. But through all that, if you look at attachment 28, it shows you the standards which they have to meet in order to be a work-ready student. This is over and above their normal Elizabethton high school diploma that they would earn. The benefit of this is that with their work ethic diploma, the College and Career Consortium that we're working with, and along with Workforce Development, is they've written grants, and that's the grant that we told you that we had received to help us with students. That will some pay for work keys for students that are getting ready to go out and do that. And our goal is to be a work-ready community. So when they take this diploma out, their work ethics diploma, so far, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 businesses that have said, if these students come through and walk through the door, they're guaranteed an interview in our area. And the goal is to have entry-level jobs that they could come in, and the goal eventually, as we work with that, is for those to be living wage jobs that they would be able to come in, entry level but living wage. And so the goal right now is we would love to have 100 businesses in a 90-mile radius, 70 to 90, that kids could have a lot of different options to go out and be ready to go to the workforce. But the initial part of that was the businesses and workforce development getting together and saying, okay, if a child came in to see you today, what are the most valuable things that you would need to know about them? Amazingly, GPA is just one of them. The drug-free standard is huge. Attendance is huge. And so they tried to hit on the things that would any employer would be happy to have. And so I guess the discussion part is whether we want to put this in. And let me talk about the phase-in. It would start with our people that are registering in February, and we would hope to have that ready for next year's seniors. But it starts in 2017, and it would be for them coming in the fall of their senior year. They would be ready to be able to earn this. So we have a little bit of lead time to make sure everyone's educated on what they do. Now, we do know, this last thing, we do know that some of these things are cumulative over a long period of time. Their GPA is going to be cumulative over not just their senior year. It will be over their entire time that they're there. But they receive points towards their work ethic diploma, and the total is to get 20 points, and they can earn that in any combination on that page. So the discussion is, do we want to sign on and make this a part of what we do for students?
Is there a difference in the LEAP
program and the two different handouts here.
Okay. The specific one, if you go to the next one, there is not really a difference there. This was the initial grant.
Okay.
What they did there, and we have made some modifications to where we're hoping that everyone in our district will sign on and be a part of it. I think almost all of the schools in our Upper East Tennessee are going to try to be together and do it.
I had two questions, Dr. Gardenauer. I noticed that there's a gentleman from the Nicewater Foundation. How extensive is their involvement in this?
They're signing on. What they're trying to do is just be a catalyst for any ideas that we have. Richard Kitzmiller is the person from Nicewater that's on the committee with us, and he's working to try to remove barriers. So sometimes it could be that Nicewater uses their influence to say, hey, we're specifically having money for work keys, helping us write grants in order to help sustain the project. So they'll be with us on grant writing and just trying to remove barriers using their influence. So because ultimately, I think they would probably partner with us once we have a good group and use that in some of their grant writing too. That when they're trying to receive money for the foundation.
So they help write grants?
They do. They help us in just about every way you can imagine. Technology, grants, training, they're great.
The other question I had was, it said diplomas awarded, 900 students signed up as planning to work towards a diploma, and 316 completed all the requirements.
Right.
Is there a reason for the disparity in that number?
Well, it's pretty rigorous to be able to receive it.
Okay.
If I'm looking at looking down through the sheet, you're talking there about drug-free is a problem for some students, discipline is an issue, absenteeism and attendance is a big. It's going to be pretty difficult to get, but they're also not wanting every student coming out of high school to be able to achieve that. They would love for us to get to that point where we're there, but it needs to be something special that they receive.
But they know what's expected of them up front, I
They
assume.
do. So when we're registering them for classes coming up this spring for the following year, they'll be given this and say, would you like to sign on and try that? So they'll know what the standards are.
Who is responsible for the calculations? Bob, will this go through the counseling office or?
It will, and that's one of the things Nicewater is working on, is that could they be of help with some of their career college?
It seems to be a lot for somebody to do.
It does.
With everything else happening around graduation time.
Right. But our cutoff probably will be somewhere around the 1st of May. We'll have to set a cutoff time and say they can achieve these up until that time, because I'd say about 2 weeks prior to graduation. Mr. Culbert's working with me on this, so in fact, he'll be heavily involved in working with us. So.
Is there direction for like an electronic calculation on this?
Not that do you remember anything on that, Mr. Culbert?
The other schools have started, Morristown, those all three counties, not just Hamilton County, when they first go for the grant, they had to do something to prove, they got a lead grant, they had to do something to prove that all these good things you do with kids is gonna help them get jobs. This is what they came up with. And each school did it differently as far as who collected the data. There's obviously wide range of data to collect. So obviously we need to do as best we can to help do it. Some of it, for example, have to even end sooner than the last couple of weeks because of grade point average. We can't get those final grades in at the same time we're trying to figure out who's getting the diploma. But as Dr. Gardner said, a lot of the other stuff is going to be way up closer to the end on calculating some of that.
And when we're looking at calculating too, keep in mind that most everything on the page can be calculated by our student management system, so it'll be running reports. So we'll just have to sign on and say yes, they meet, or no, they don't.
Well, I like anything that challenges a student, and for some students, it's athletics is the thing that keeps them motivated. Others, it's grades. I'm always up for anything that challenges every student in an area that they think, I want to achieve this, and it's something to work toward. And we all are driven by different things, so I always think it's great when you can try to say, let's try this for some students.
What do you need, what do you need from us tonight?
Just a general consensus that this is something that we move forward on. It's not necessarily a vote. There's no money attached to it, but, you know, there's...
Well, the more opportunities, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see anything negative on here. In fact, I think it's important that we have opportunities for people to be ready for college and careers, or, you know, entering the workforce. I think that's one of our stated goals. So.
And it's strictly voluntary on the part of the student. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Well, it sounds like you might have our blessings. So.
Okay. All right. Check that out.
Okay. All right. Next item is approve agreement between ECS and Train Incorporated for services not to exceed $656,998.85, utilizing cooperative purchasing through Elizabethton City Schools' participation in the U.S. communities, which allows for security of the negotiated price contract to assure compliance with all procedural laws and to be good stewards of funds. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, I'm gonna call one move in 1 second. All right, this has been a long time coming, so.
We've looked at a lot of different ways to try to address some of our HVAC needs across the system, and as we started looking at lighting, and that was one of our projects that we're currently looking at and working with, we also looked at some of our major projects we're going to have to do over a period of time. And keep in mind when we're talking about this, every project that's in here is something we really need to do. It's going to either come in an easy way to where we make a monthly payment, or it's going to come all at one time, which is not necessarily the way we want to do things. But Train Corporation, who we've selected through U.S. Communities and is our energy partner, I'll let Dan talk a few minutes, if he would, about what he says, I'll defer to you, so I'll talk a little bit about that. If you look at the service agreement overall, it takes into account some large projects that we have and that we need to do. First of all, you know, we talked about in the spring when we talked with City Council about being better stewards of the money that we actually have. And one of the ways that they're going to help us do this is to get closer monitoring of our HVAC systems to say, do we have peak time, non-peak time? How are we utilizing energy in our buildings? What do we need to do to make better choices about how to move forward with projects that we have? So that's part of the project. The boiler at Harold McCormick, as we're all aware, is something that needs to be done. That's something that's in my opinion, an emergency. So that's part of this as well. Also, we're looking at doing what's called an R-renewal, which is renewing some of our chillers that we have at the high school and the middle school, and looking at controls at the high school. Obviously, when we looked at all of our data that they provided for us at the end of last year, when we were talking with the city council, one of the things that we found is the high school uses a lot of energy. So that was our biggest mark, where we're going to have to make improvements on how we're using that building. And so putting controls in there gives us an opportunity to monitor it every day, all day. Can we bring energy up at a slower rate? That way we're not paying peak prices on energy, which is going to go into help us pay for some of the projects that we have here. All in all, over this period of time, it does come out. We do have some warranties on the compressors and that type of thing, individual warranties. We're looking at specific items. That's going to help us, make good decision there. We've been working on this how many months, Mr. Van Ness? Mr. Lee, it's been many months, and trying to get to a time where we could move forward. Now, the next question is, how are we going to pay for this? But there's a couple ways. First of all, the way that it works through U.S. Communities is that We have a general budget of what we're going to do each year, and we've set that money aside, and we feel comfortable with the payment that we can make there. We also, our excess sales tax money, we went to the city council and asked for them this summer to move $200,000 to help us get started, because we knew that we would have to do the Harold McCormick boiler. So that kind of moved us into a position where we could start looking at that and then have a yearly maintenance. The other thing about the projects that we're looking at is that we're going to do it over a 5-year period, and we're going to try to keep making our monthly payments. And as we have money and it looks feasible to move to the next project, that's what we'll do over that 5-year period. So we feel very comfortable that this is the right way to go, and we're going to have to address these needs. And we feel like we have a good plan to get it done. And one thing I'll say about Train in working as our energy partner, in all this planning over all these months and this time that we've done, they have had boots on the ground looking at every spaghetti pipe that we have everywhere. They've been through the high school, they've been in the ceilings, they've been in our basements, trying to assess what's the best thing to do at this point to make the right decisions. And we did approve an engineer to help us design the boiler at Harold McCormick, and we feel very comfortable with where we are there. But it has been just a lot of time spent by them to help us make today possible. So I know that was a long explanation.
No, that's okay.
But it's been
It's a lot of
work.
money. We needed a good
Yeah,
explanation.
exactly.
I just have a real quick question. The total is $656,998. Total projects is $545,000. And on this other page on there, this service agreement of $111,000. Is that the balance that we're talking about?
That is the difference.
What
in those
exactly
two.
is the service agreement over the 5-year period? What?
The service agreement is going to help us monitor what we're doing, but also making sure. I'll let Dan come forward. Come on, Dan. You want to talk about our service agreement and that side? He can explain a
I mean, I
little bit.
understand
Some
the
of
projects, what the total is on that, and then there's a balance of
Mhm.
111,000.
He'll explain
And that's
how
spread
all the-
out over the 5 years. Yeah, I'm just curious what we're getting for that $111,000. The service agreement.
The service, that is 22,000 a year roughly, and that is primarily associated with, and there's a whole list of stuff that is in your packet that also is including. And basically, like Dr. Gardenauer said, in a condensed version, when you have controls, having them versus using them to the optimal way are two different things. So there's some coaching that we've discovered through the time that we've had controls since we started many years ago, putting them in at different schools in smaller pieces. And what we found was that a lot of times you put them in and 2 or 3 years later you find that some of the things, because there's a classroom that needs to be occupied or a gym that needs to be occupied or a special use of the school, that sometimes those things get a little twisted and far afield from how they're intended to be used. And the only way that you can really keep tabs on all of that is to keep a constant eye on it and to optimize it. Dr. Gardenauer touched on something that's probably lost a lot of times, but small things like when school starts back, we can see, and we looked at that this past spring, if you recall, the energy usage in the school when you come back in the fall will just spike, and there's these demand charges that are put onto their multipliers, onto your utility rates. If you don't play that game just right, you end up spiking your utilities and having a multiplier that's not to your advantage that will be affecting you on down the road. So what we want to do is to try and do that more intentionally and have a more active role in it. In the past, it's been something that we've done training, and then everybody has other tasks, and especially during the start of school, there's a lot of stuff going on, and keeping tabs on that is not something that people are capable of doing. And we learned that, I think, through the past several years. So that's an active role that we'll take on a monthly basis, and then twice a year we're going to do some more comprehensive reporting where we're going to take a piece of equipment anymore is like a computer, and there's a million different little data points that are inside those things, and we actually have a group of people in Columbus, Ohio, can't imagine that job, but they sit and stare at these screens where all of this data is coming in from your school system. So on the larger utility usage schools, which is T.A. Duggar and the high school, we're going to be monitoring that data and trying to find ways, maybe even something before something breaks, for example, that could result in not only repair costs but also in energy usage. We'll be monitoring that constantly. And then twice a year, and whomever you designate that you'd like to have in those meetings, we'll sit down and have some action points of here's some places where we've really gone off the rails, or here's some places where we have some small things that we can improve upon. So we'll be doing that on a constant basis as well. There's two other small things that are in there. One of them we've already completed. As we said, we've been working on this for several months. We actually did a utility rate audit. So we have a team that's in Louisville, Kentucky. We took all of your utility bill data and sent it to them, and then they audited all of the rates. So what they did was they took your rate that the school system is on and compared it to other rates that were available. If you think of like maybe your phone bill, your cell phone bill, we could all be on different rates and paying different bills for the same usage. So they went through and audited that and made sure that we were all on the best rates possible for the school system. They also did a utility invoice audit to make sure that there weren't some things on there that maybe were being paid for, which is not uncommon. Maybe a building that's not in use anymore where there's still some type of a meter charge or something. They went through and did all of that. And then the final thing that we do is what's called an optics run, where we go in and try to find leakage of usage outside of the hours that the school system is supposed to be occupied. And we do that on a 3D graph, which is pretty cool. We can share that later on as well. So those are the things we'll be doing.
When you presented to us at the previous time that you presented those dated, if I recall, this 22,000 was covered by actually savings that we had in the program from using the controls and the managed optimized pattern. Is that correct? Did I understand that we saved more than we spent?
We have, and we anticipate that there will be savings as we upgrade, especially with controls. We have, and we're able to bring that in. There will be savings, and that will help us pay our overall.
As I recall, it was cost neutral, though roughly, or actually slightly better from the presentation.
Yeah, we've taken large chunks away from the utility cost, and that's what we saw in the spring. So what you saw in the spring was where, despite the fact that utility rates have been steady or if not slightly increasing, we've actually decreased while square footage has been added to the schools. So that's a success story, and that's just a success story of taking those large chunks. You're kind of at the place now where you got to keep kind of wringing some more cost out of the system and optimizing. And there's other steps that we've mutually shared over the years when we've met internally that we really just can't take with a more active, we need to have a more active role in order to really find those additional steps. And it's interesting, sometimes I can't say that it will always be cost neutral, but it's our belief that when we pull the covers back and start looking at this on a more active basis, that it's amazing what we'll find. It would be surprising if we didn't find more waste and more malfunctioning equipment and more things that we can fix that we don't know right now. There's just no way to know with the staff that we have engaged, as well as the staff of the school system that's doing all kinds of stuff. So that's our hope. That's our plan.
I know that this was something that we started talking about 8-9 years ago, and it was this dream that we would one day be kind of all have this type of ability, and it's really neat to see that it's finally we keep taking baby steps, but I feel like this is a big step, and to actually see some savings and be a little bit more proactive in how we're spending our money and stuff. So it's a really exciting time.
We've always felt and still think it's a long path, and we've walked it together, and we'll continue to walk it. That's one of the blessings of what we get to do. So we're happy to get to do that.
I got two questions, Dr. Gardner. I noticed one of the projects has to do with the new band room. Is there any bond money left at all to help with that? Or we spent all that money?
We will be able to report on that next month. We just
Okay.
received a final cost estimate with savings today. We have a few projects. When I say projects, we're talking very minor things to finish there, but we're just about ready to be able to give our final savings there, which you'll be impressed with. So, but we've turned that around to pay for our, other things that we've had. Of course,
How much of the bond money is left?
the bond money It's gone. It's all spent
It's
too.
all gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so we spent it on our intended purpose, the stadium and the band room.
What's the time frame for the boiler at Harold McCormick? I know it says fall 2016, but I mean,
Good
when are they going to
question.
start and finish?
We will be working overtime. We're okay. We know that if anything goes down, here's how, well, we've taken care of it some interesting ways, but we could, if we had a serious meltdown, we could have a loaner that we could use for a period, but we're going to work as fast as we can and as prudent as we can to make it work.
We'll
during
just
that.
hope it stays warm.
That's our goal, and that's Dan's job, to help us to stay warm. So,
Through that process, Mr. Van Huss had, which he's got his mechanical engineer degree hanging on his office wall back there. But one of the things that he pointed out, the engineers came through. We actually redesigned the boiler plant a total of 3 times, 4 times. We were only going to design it once. We ended up designing it 4 times. And one of the things that Mr. Van Huss pointed out was to put in some provisions for attaching a temporary boiler if that need ever arose. So that was a good catch on his part to be able to do that. So we hope that that doesn't happen, but actually we'll be telling people to get busy as soon as we get done. So, and they will.
Guess we better vote then.
I think that that's exactly what we should do, and way to use that engineering degree. So the item on the floor is to approve agreement between ECS and Train Incorporated for services not to exceed $656,998.85, utilizing cooperative purchasing through Elizabethton City Schools' participation in U.S. communities, which allows for security of the negotiated price contract to assure compliance with all procurement laws and to be good stewards of funds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And the last is also a discussion item. It's regarding Board Policy 4.804, religious content of courses. Dr. Gardner?
We were required to have a public meeting to talk about the religious content of courses, and this is our public meeting to have any discussion that we need to on that. If you look at the attachment on 30 with the TSBA version of the language that they have there, our job is going to be, and we will put a task force together, although we've already worked at the middle school, excuse me, on this. They just need to make sure that what we're having our children do is that if you look at such studies shall never be used to proselytize, establish, foster, or demean any particular religious tenets or beliefs. And so I think that the goal of this is to make sure that we have a balanced curriculum, especially when we're teaching world history, teaching different religions and that type of thing, and to make us go back and go over that. And then the end result is that the syllabus for those particular courses that we would teach has to be put online for public viewing. So we will be working on that and making sure that we're trying to be fair and balanced on what we're doing. And so we'll start on that tomorrow. But is there any discussion from anyone on that?
Did you put the task force together already?
We have not. We wanted to make sure that we talked with the board first.
Okay.
So we did respond to a American Law Justice. They brought a suit against the state of Tennessee, and part of that suit was for us to come together and make sure that we had all of our curriculum, that we could have it at an opportunity to look at it. And so, because we were going to have to turn that in. They since have backed off that, but we've kept all that material. So that'll be very easy for us to go and review what's there. I think it will not take us too awful long. I haven't gone through that process during that potential lawsuit that the state was in.
So this language that we have here was developed by the TSBA? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of it's pretty vague.
Intentionally, yeah. But I think that we just need to make sure that it's balanced and we're not favoring anything when we're teaching it. And so we're
High school curriculum, we don't have
We do have a Bible course.
We do have a Bible lit course.
It's an elective.
Anybody else? All right. Well, it looks like that's it for the evening. Next regularly scheduled board meeting will be Tuesday, October 18, 2016, at 6:30 here in the Mac Pierce Boardroom. Looking forward to seeing everybody Monday night. We'll be leaving here at 4:30. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
And second, thank you. Have a good evening.